Hello everyone. Hello and welcome to We Care Homecare 101. Oh my goodness, today I don't even believe how honored we are to have the guests that we have here today. Today we are honored to have Miss Tanya Straker. Straker, not Striker. I want to say Striker. For whatever reason, I want to say that.
Hospital beds.
Maybe. I want to say that. But Ms. Tanya Straker is gracing us today. And she is a phenomenal person in the caregiver world. But I want to give the opportunity to tell you guys like where else she is from, right? So I wrote it down because I couldn't remember all of this, right? She trained at the Gestalt Institute in Cleveland. Oh my God, that blew me away when she said that. I found another Gestaltist. Unbelievable. She has a master's in organizational development. She was the senior director of training and development in New York City Health and Hospital Corporation, which healthcare is my field. So this is awesome to know that about you. She was a process improvement specialist. And I feel that definitely I'm in line with that. She's a certified health coach, a caregiver, an author. She runs a caregiver support group, a virtual support group that meets weekly. And she's the author of 6 life hacks for family caregivers. Be your own coach. Oh, I think the rest didn't print there. There was another word, right? Be your own coach. But anyway, I'm going to turn the mic over to Ms. Tanya Straker.
Well, thank you for that awesome introduction, Nancy. And so my book is Be Your Own Coach and Beat Burnout, because that's
what was
that's
missing.
The crux of it.
Beat burnout.
Beat burnout, because as caregivers, we can lose sight of our own lives, and there's a way to not put your life aside, but to have your life live in concert, to have your life move forward and be in concert with your caregiver role. And that is what my book is about. But we're not really going to talk about my book too much today. I'd like to, because I want to talk a little bit about my role as a caregiver, my experience as a caregiver. I cared for my mom, and that's how when we met, I was caring for my mom. And I stepped into the role, as so many caregivers do. I didn't realize that I was a caregiver. So I got a call.
Unbeknownst to you.
Yeah, I mean, so many of us, we just think I'm just helping out. I'm just going to help out. I'd gotten a call from a headhunter. It was the ideal job. This was my perfect job. This was my dream job. And I was going to move back to New York, and I was going to move back into the family home. And I was going to help my mother out. I was just going to help her. I was going to drive her to the store. I was going to write a few checks. That's all I was going to do. And then I got here, got back to New York, and found out that she was further in cognitive decline than she let on the phone, because she, like many folks, she was covering it up. She was, as long as it was before she was sundowning, she was on top of things. And I moved back into the home and went,
we'll talk about sundowning. That's a word. That's a code word. But go ahead, yeah.
And I just went, how can I do this? I was 2 months in, I was already overwhelmed.
Oh wow!
I had taken on this job, this dream job. I decided I was coming back to New York. I'm going to I decided to be president of a professional association, because I didn't think I would have enough to do. Right?
You filled it all up.
I had no idea what was coming in terms of caring, being a full-time carer.
Right.
And I like using the word carer as opposed to caregiver, because it was so much more than just giving care.
Right.
And that's actually what I'd like to talk to you about, because I am passionate. It's my mission that I can share with with carers, the full scope of the job.
Right.
So that's what I'd like to talk to you about. I created something called the Ultimate Caregiver Task List.
Oh, love it. The Ultimate Caregiver Task List. And where can they find that?
And they can find it. I'm going to make sure that I share the information with you so we can be attached, because right now it's just a bit.ly attached in a Google Drive. But I certainly would like to share it with anyone who's interested. You can always reach out to Nancy or to me, TanyaStraker.com, and get access to the Ultimate Care List.
Unbelievable.
That's what I want to talk about.
Okay, let's talk about the care list. So these are a list of items that people who are embarking on this journey, this job, what are the things that they need to know? And you have like a 8-step, 12-step.
So it's 8 roles, and your word journey, absolutely apropos, because when the way I look at it is I knew I was getting a job in a hospital, which meant I got a job description.
Mm-hmm.
I was interviewed. When I started the job, I was mentored. They said, here are the people you need to meet. Here are the things you need to know. Right? So it was all laid out for me. But when I stepped into the carer role, there was no orientation, no structure. And when you work in hospitals, this is, education. It has to be documented, right? There's no getting around.
It wasn't documented. It wasn't done. That's nurses. It didn't happen if you didn't document it.
And I was responsible for making sure that every single employee got their annual education every year. So all of a sudden, I stepped into this role. I know nothing. Nobody tells me. It was like keep learning as I went along. So I felt that when I stepped into the carer role, I had become the CEO of a company in an industry I knew nothing about.
Right.
And it was a startup.
I like that.
It's a startup. I don't know what I'm doing. And all of a sudden, I'm fully responsible
for everything,
for my mother's well-being. And I have brothers who don't live there, and they're like, you're responsible. And so then you've got other people, looking to make sure, my brother once gave me a very underhanded compliment. It was, you're not doing things the way I would do them, but I suppose since you're doing it, I just have to be happy with the way you're doing it.
Because he's not doing it. He's not going to do it.
Because this is what,
Right.
And I barely understood what my role was. Neither did he. Right. So I'm not mad at him for
right. And you're learning as you go.
Along, right?
So what I hear you're saying is you got into a role and had to find and create structure for yourself and really define what are those things. What am I doing? And how am I doing it? What am I responsible for? And how do I categorize those things? And your tasks and your roles. Okay, tell me what some of those roles are.
So the role, everyone sees me as a daughter. Oh, you're such a good daughter. And I'm going to talk about that as the last role. But at the top of the list is CEO, meaning I was responsible for the final decision. It didn't matter how many conversations I had with neighbors or doctors or lawyers or siblings. This final decision was with me.
Interesting.
And that gives, as the carer, there's this sense of there's this sense of responsibility that even if other people are helping you out, they don't feel it.
Interesting.
Because you're basically the CEO.
Right. So the buck stops there.
The buck stops there.
Got you. So that responsibility, and you said you have 2 brothers?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That responsibility, which I think willingly they allowed you to have it.
Oh yes.
Without with no duress.
They begged.
Yeah. They were like, yeah, you can have that.
Yeah.
So allowing you to have that, and at first you didn't really know what you were embarking on, but as you figured out what it was that you were getting yourself into, was it like, oh no, what did I just take on?
And it was, and especially being the youngest, not all of a sudden, I am making the final decisions. And these are life and death decisions because this is someone's care, right?
Right.
So this is pretty heavy stuff.
It's daunting.
That other people in the family are looking at you, just expecting you to do it, and not understanding the emotional piece weight that is on you, because you are making the final decision. So you're at the top. It's lonely at the top.
Well put. So okay, as you took this role on, and you're kind of seeing what it actually is, like all the things that, how did you structure yourself? And I know you came across with these roles or whatever, but I know you didn't do that at first. That was a hindsight thing. So how did you handle it and organize yourself?
So we step into the carer role because of a medical crisis often. So it's a medical piece. So you leave the rehab, you leave the hospital, and the nurses and the social workers have a lovely list, protocol, what to do. But that's only the medical piece.
Yes.
You go home and figure out, how am I going to pay for this? Right? That's a different role. The doctors they can't help you with that. Right?
They're not social workers.
They're not social workers,
no,
right?
They're not. Yeah.
And even the social worker, it can't necessarily help you with the financial piece. So that's the other role. So you go home, and of course, my concern about myself was my own personal finances.
Right. How much of that you're going to work into this?
Well, that actually is that was 2 when I left the job. But at that point, I had just stepped into the job. So it was a matter of figuring out. So as my mother was in decline, and so do we start getting help? So one of the first decisions to be made is since I needed to be on her 24/7, was it going to be me? We're going to bring in other people, and how was that going to be paid for?
Right.
And what agency and who's going to pay for? So again, decisions.
Right.
So the second role is aging life care professional.
Okay.
The operations manager of the company, basically.
Look at you.
So now, what company, she needs a podiatrist. I wanted a podiatrist to come in. Well, you're online, right? You're online trying to Google, right? Google is your friend. You're on the internet trying to find the set of services that are going to meet my mother's needs at that point in time in her life, in her medical. She had other medical pieces. The dementia, the cognitive decline was just one thing.
How old was your mom?
She was, I don't know, 81 maybe at the time.
Okay.
So, she had the regular medical visits, the heart monitor, all these other things were going on that she had been handling on her own.
Right.
So now it's a matter of sitting down and going, what are all the services that she already had in place for herself, for her home, for her finances, for her bank. Now, my mother put me on her bank account when I was 16, so she let me know fairly early that I was responsible.
Wow.
That I was going to have financial responsibility if anything happened to her. So, I know for a long time.
Oh, that's so nice. That your brothers were not happy about it.
See, and the thing is, I don't even think they knew that she had done that. So it's also some, again, so it's all these family dynamics that come up that you also end up having to manage,
and it gets amplified.
Yeah, it gets amplified,
right? Because it's an emergency situation, and okay, I'm the point person, I'm the decision maker, I'm the operations person. And what's the other role?
So I like the term financial trustee because you are being trusted. I was the one being trusted to go into my mother's finances, and if you don't have that trust in the family, people are thinking, "Oh, I saw she has a new pair of shoes. Is that her money, or are you go?" And because some people are not trustworthy, some family members are not trustworthy, and people do need to check and see what they do. So, financial trustee, because this is often long term. So when you are supporting someone who has a chronic medical condition, you do not know. There's no time frame.
No. This is an open-ended job.
It's open-ended. I had been been placed as the legal guardian for my aunt several years.
So this is not your mother.
Not my mother.
And your aunt had some other different.
Right, because she had a stroke at 103.
Wow.
So I was given responsibility for all of her finances, all of her housing, all of the decisions by the court from 103 to 107.
But this is how much time before your mother?
So this is, I'm not sure, right now I can't, my mind is, all I know is that when I needed to take care of my mother, I thought.
You had a lot of preparation.
Wow, she's only 81.
Yeah. How long am I doing this?
Right? I don't know. This could be a really long. So when you're looking at those finances, you're the financial trustee, you are not just looking at today, you're trying to prepare for an unknown future. Exactly. So this is a very professional role. So, oh, you're so nice, you're taking care of your mother. I'm making a lot of decisions about how to utilize the funds that she had put aside for her retirement. How am I going to utilize that? So financial trustee.
Okay, that's number 3.
Medical trustee.
Okay.
Because there's advanced directives and decisions about what happens if, does she want to be DNR and all of these decisions have to be made. That when you're having the discussion with the care receiver, if other people in the family aren't privy to it, now you're at the hospital and saying this is what she said. You've got to have that. When you have those conversations, you are in a different position than everyone else in the family. Wow. So it's again emotional, right? You're actually taking on a different emotional responsibility to carry out this person's decisions,
their wishes.
So that's number 4.
So and that's more what they call I'm going to call it end of life planning.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And the POA, the power of attorney, right? And what are the final wishes of someone, right? That they should be noted, written somewhere, and someone should know, right? And what happens is when other people that, oh, you're the one who's entrusted. Oh, you're the one who knew. Why didn't you talk her out of this? Or why didn't you change your mind about this or that? And I'm saying, unlucky for me, my mother made that decision on her own, didn't tell anybody. And I found out when I got to the emergency room. She looked at me like, it's my life. Like, what are you worried about? But so, okay, we're up to role 4. So I just want to list it, if you could list it.
And I think it's important when people think about the power of attorney, they think about it, it is financial. And so it's also important to also ensure the medical piece is handled, because there's medical financial. Okay, so there's the end of life, but there's also how you pay. There's the which insurance companies pay for this? Do they have long-term care
advanced
insurance?
directives?
Do they have this? So there's medical financial, and then there's other financial pieces. So it's important to understand that. I mean, I didn't know, as you asked, like, how did I structure it? I don't know. Every time there was a crisis, I had to put in another.
You jumped into whatever role that you needed to jump into. I get it. Yeah.
So I found out that I was going to be, handling medical finances and dealing with insurance pieces because as her needed more medications, is that being covered under Medicare Part A or B or with her pension plan or this or that? So you really have to. There's a lot of education. It's a lot of knowledge building for the medical financial piece as well as the other financial pieces.
One thing I didn't hear you say, and maybe you said it maybe in a different way, estate planning.
So if estate planning, so it is.
No, do you put that in a different role, or is this in this role?
No, it's in those roles. It's under under one of those roles, estate planning. Unfortunately, if it hasn't been done, and when you're stepping into the role, the person is already in cognitive decline, then everyone is questioning whether or not they are at that. Is this really their decision, or is it not? So, of course, the earlier you can do it, the better. But if it's not done earlier, you're still responsible.
There you go.
And it still has to.
Right. You're the next of kin. Right. You're the legal next of kin. Right.
So you still play out the role. And if you're the primary caregiver, again, you're feeling you said it better, the gravity of the responsibility for making the decision that is best for the person you're caring for, as well as your own life.
Right. Your life actually has to fit in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, just if you could list it with me. 1 is the CEO. 2 is the operations director or manager. 3 is the financial
trustee.
right? Financial trustee. I'm listening, right? Hey. 4 is the medical trustee. Okay. 5.
So I say nurse because a home health aide can come in, but they can't even hand over the medication. That's right. Okay. They can't change the dressing.
No, they cannot.
They can't put the cat.
The family can do that, but a caregiver, a paid caregiver, is not licensed to do that. A nurse is, and a family member can.
So there's nothing you can't do as a family member. You're the family member. There is nothing you can't do. You're the one monitoring for heat exhaustion. And you don't even know what heat exhaustion is. I didn't know what heat exhaustion was. The first time my mother fainted at the kitchen table, and I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. And I called 911, and I called my cousin, and she goes, oh, that's syncope. And she gives me the fancy name. Oh yeah, Mom used to do that all the time in the middle of. She even had a fancy name for it. I was just panicking. Right. We were sitting and eating dinner, and all of a sudden and then she comes back up, and the EMT, she goes, well, why are we going to the hospital? I'm fine. And she was fine. Right. But at that point, I didn't know that she could just faint and come back. I knew that the next time, but that time, fainting is an emergency. 911, let's go. So you have to know what a UTI is, and you have to learn
and the confusion that it can cause. And I keep telling people that UTIs cause confusion, and sometimes people think something else is going on. And if you have a dementia diagnosis, sometimes it's hard to read between those lines. Right? Yeah.
And so you don't even know what questions to ask. So know that you have the responsibility of a nurse. You're monitoring. Because you're a supervisor. A home health aide is there, but you're the family member. You have the ultimate responsibility. And so I just asked lots of questions of lots of nurses. I was a pain in the hospital, asking as many questions as I could. So again, it's that monitoring and documentation which nurses do that becomes part of your responsibility as well.
I love that.
So
so after your nurse, number 6.
So when PT and OT come out and give the exercises that day, who is going to help them do it the next day? PT is supposed to be done.
You're a PTA,
right? So you are also a physical.
They call them
PTA. An allied health professional.
Right, you're an allied health professional. You're a physical therapy assistant. They call that the PTA because who actually does it? The physical therapist comes out, does the assessment, writes out the plan of care for PT, but somebody does the work.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And so either you're doing it yourself or you are ensuring that the home health aide is following through on the protocol.
Exactly.
Because ultimately you're accountable and responsible.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So what 5 was the nurse, 6 you're a physical therapist, 7.
Oh, you just get to be the home health aide.
You
get to do the groceries, you get to wash the dishes, you get to plan the meals, you get to serve the meals, you get to, so as the operations manager, you decided to get, Meals on Wheels or Angel Food Delivery,
how things are going to
your
be.
doctor, whatever. So you figured all that out at the operations level, but you may still, I lived in the home with my mom, so it was my responsibility to see that these things were going. Even when I had paid folks coming in, they still have to go by my guide. My mother loved vegetables.
Interesting.
My home health aide would never have given my mom a vegetable if I didn't insist. I'm like, no, she really loves carrots. Please give my mother lots of carrots.
Interesting.
Because people give people what they find delicious and what they like eating. What they eat. So you have to. So you've got.
So you really created your plan. You were the nurse. What you're saying, the plan of care.
Yeah.
That's the plan of care. Food, what she's going to eat, and how she's going to eat, and when she's going to eat it. That's part of that. Interesting.
And then you get to do it, and then it's being the daughter, which is how people would see me. Yeah, 8 is the daughter.
Oh, you put that last.
Well, the daughter is because that's the part that people generally see. And that's what they think of. And I think it is so important to be the daughter because depending on your personality, you can get so caught up in all those things that you never sit down and have dinner and then have your mother, faint in front of you. But nevertheless, I was sitting down making sure that, because I had a long commute to work.
Yes.
I had a lot of responsibility,
yes.
But I always made sure that on several times that we were sitting down together, having a meal. Because this is
why you moved here.
I actually get to be the daughter.
Right.
That's just sitting down and spending time with her.
Amazing. And something you shared with me earlier before we started, you said you were like doing the busy work, like doing the laundry and at that time your mother was aphasic. At
that point she was aphasic. She had the second stroke at that point.
Right. And what did she do?
She pulled me, she told me, come over, and she said, sit. And she wanted me to just sit and laugh with her and watch I Love Lucy.
But she communicated all of that
non-verbally, right.
Right? And you got that.
Yes.
That was the daughter who got that.
The daughter. And even though my mother was aphasic and she was speaking a language, every once in a while she would remember my name and she would yell it so loud that I could hear it anywhere in the house. She could find my name. And it's like,
that's awesome.
She is, people say, oh, it's like, it's like having a child. No, she was still my mother. And she knew she was my mother.
And you knew she was your mother. And you respected the fact that she was your mom. Yeah.
And it would be really fun. Every once in a while, she would just say my name as loud as she could. She could find the words. So yes.
So awesome.
But the communication was nonverbal. For the last 2.5 years, it was nonverbal.
Wow. So you use these roles, and I say use them, and I think we all experience them as caregivers or carers, as she said. These roles help define the different, you call it roles, but sometimes I feel like I'm multiple people, right? And I like using the roles thing because now I feel like I'm fitting myself all back. I'm like, I'm back. So now you have a support group, right? So I think that hearing and you really delineating what these roles are, people can start to understand. Sometimes you feel fragmented and you don't know why.
I think they're exhausted because somebody told them they were a caregiver. No one said, I called myself a master caregiver, and I hear you use that.
I use that,
also.
Yeah.
I gave myself the role once, after the second stroke, when the role changed again. I said, by that, I recognized all these things I was doing. I'm a professional. See, as I said, from my Aunt Sissy, I was paid to do these things, because once you
the executive of the estate or
no, once you are made a legal guardian, you go through the legal guardian, so then, a lawyer was appointed to oversee me to make sure that I was managing her assets. So in that role, so I was recognized by being paid.
Gotcha.
I did the same thing for my mother.
That was your mom.
And I was not paid because there weren't finances. Now, if she had the money to pay me, she would have been more than happy to have paid me. But, I looked at the finances. The finances were not available, were not there to pay me for my role. Besides, when I stepped into the role, I had a full-time job. So
correct.
I didn't need,
so you weren't looking for that.
I didn't need to be paid.
Right.
But even though I wasn't being paid, it was about me recognizing me. Because what did I know about POAs and medical directives? And what did I know about different meals or different meal programs, and what did I know about different home care agencies? What did I know? So you're actually, as I'm gathering all this information, if I was at my job, I would have had an evaluation at the end of the year, and my boss would have said, please write out your recommendation. Please write out all the things you did and how would you rate yourself for the year? And I would have said, well, here's all the things that I did, but you don't get to do that
because no one recognizes.
Right.
They don't recognize what you're doing.
Right.
Like you're just somebody there with that person.
And having dinner, you just made dinner for mom and you sat down for dinner, and then you don't mention that, and then she fainted and I was scared and I called the emergency and they didn't have, you don't say that. You just go, yes, I'm taking care of mom. She's good. But I think what's important, and that's why I created the ultimate task list, is so that you can go down the list and say, so 3 things I want people to do with this task list.
I love this.
1 is acknowledge, wow, I'm doing all these things. I'm actually doing I'm playing all these roles. Yay me. So that's 1. 2, these are the roles that I hate doing.
Identifying the ones you don't like.
You don't like doing.
Okay.
Could I have somebody else do them?
Interesting.
So because people are willing to help, and you're going, no, nobody. That's it. I don't need any help. But if you can actually define that you really don't like doing certain things, you might allow yourself to allow people to help you. If you really know that, if you just feel, I really don't like that part of the role.
Right.
That part. So
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that there was another thing. I think you said it was 3 things. 3 things? Oh, maybe I heard 3 things. I like 3.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe you didn't say 3. So with getting the list, you did say something.
I did say 3.
I
don't remember what the other one was. I was just going to get away with it. What's the 3rd thing? Right. You should put a check mark next to this, what you like to do, and then blah, blah, blah. So either what people will help you to, and maybe what you can hire, I'm not sure. But there's a 3rd thing when you've gone on the list. Yes, you're right.
So no worries. So one of the things that I want you to tell everyone is where we can find this list. It's not on Tanya Straker.
I will make sure that's on tomorrow by tomorrow morning. It will be on Tanya Straker.
It is not on TanyaStraker.com. Oh my goodness.
What is on TanyaStraker.com is about my virtual caregivers group.
Nice.
And it's called Coffee with Caregivers. And we meet every Tuesday morning at 8:30. And actually 3 or 4 people this morning actually had their coffee.
Nice.
I had my water. And the purpose of the caregiver group is I'm really wanting to pull together carers who are interested in growing through the caregiver experience, through the caring experience.
Right.
And so it is a group where I will not advise you about. There is no advice about what lawyer you should use, or
it's not that kind of group.
Not that kind of a group. It's a group to be seen and heard.
I love it.
Where you can say, I am exhausted and sometimes I hate doing this, and everybody will go, yeah, been there. and everybody has an opportunity to share. We'll do some exercise. So it's there. It's a place to be seen and heard. However, we do have a WhatsApp group, so if people have a resource. Like, what camera are you using to monitor? Like a really good camera.
Nice.
So if somebody says, I have a really good something, they'll go on the WhatsApp group and they'll put up a resource.
Nice.
So that is a part of it as well. But it's a meetup group, so it can also just be found on meetup.com.
Nice. Oh, okay, nice.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it sounds like you're building a community. Right, of a shared experience, right, and this experience, like you're saying, and carving it out and delineating these roles, I think is so important. Just it's freeing for me, having been a carer or caregiver for the time that I have been, and not always looking at how. Like you said, if you were in a job, you would have said to your boss, hey, I did this, and this, and that's why I need a promotion or whatever it is. That's why I need more than a 3% raise. Like, right here, you would have like beefed it up really nicely so that they can see the value that you brought to the table. But so much, and I don't want to get, funny and saying this society, that there's a value that is not placed on what it is that you're talking about, what it is that you've done, and so many people are doing. At We Care, and I have to say this. Like when I did it, I said to myself, wow, like I'm sitting here and I'm introducing Miss Tanya Straker. I did introduce myself, and I know you guys know who I am, but I'm still going to do it now, right?
Please.
My name is Nancy Pierre. We are at Homecare, Homecare and Training Services. We're located at 714 Broadway, suite number 3, Paterson, New Jersey. Wow. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Homecare. We have established this organization to really create caregivers who, as we say, loving care, who have loving care with compassion, which you see that as the tagline here. And that tagline, we spent a lot of time to come up with it. We did a lot of brainstorming. There were a lot of people that went into creating that tagline because caring, right? Being a carer or caregiving is something that we saw as a very important and essential position and role. And I'm so thankful that you've come and really defined it. And when we talk to individuals that we interview and we tell them how important this role is and how you're entering someone's space, of course you're entering their home, you're entering their personal space, and where now they have to bear themselves to you, right? And sometimes I'm talking about physically, like, you have to take off their clothes to change their diaper or clean them, like that way. But I'm going a little further because how, I don't want to use the word demeaning, but how it can diminish someone to now have to allow someone else to do those certain things for them, to assist them, to toilet them, to feed them, where they once put a spoon to their own mouth, right? Something that you associate with a baby or a child or a toddler. And now this grown person is now diminished or maybe reduced, depending upon what word you want to use. And now you coming into that person's home, you're creating a space of security, a safe space, so that person can receive that care and have the dignity that they once had or that they continue to have. And they could live a full life, as full as possible, with whatever deficits that they're dealing with cognitively, as you shared with what your mother was dealing with. Physically, she had a stroke, right? So there was issues with, and she was aphasic. So now she's I don't want to say trapped, but her ability to communicate is now affected. So she can't just easily say things as she would previously. So to come into someone's space and make them feel heard, seen, right? And what you're doing now is making that person who consistently gives, they need to be heard and seen too.
And I want to mention that this morning, two of the carers in the community spoke about how difficult it is also for the paid home health aides to come in, because they have so much things as carers, the full-time, I have so much anxiety, I have my own exhaustion, I have my own, and they're also aware that they're asking people to come into their home and not only address taking care of their loved one, they also are coming into their own anxiety. And so they were actually acknowledging the paid carers who are coming in and recognizing it's challenging
all around.
Yeah.
This is a human thing.
Yeah.
You get paid to do it or not, those experiences will still come and surface. And as they surface, and again, this is one of the conversations we have as a home care agency, when you walk into someone's space, the energy and positivity that you bring can be felt. And you don't have to say anything. So when you come in with whatever baggage and the negativity, that is felt as well. And say someone who can't communicate, who can't verbalize, who is experiencing your bad day or the argument you had with your spouse or whatever it is that you brought in there. It's a very human thing, and I'm going to thank you for creating the safe space. Coffee with caregivers, please. This is a space that I feel that, you know, people can rejuvenate and, like you said, you know, be seen and be heard, and reboot their battery.
This is a place where you can come in and reboot. And I also want to say, because I also work as a paid carer, and it is a privilege. It is a privilege to be able to support someone that is experiencing life in this physically diminished capacity.
Yes.
And it is important as a paid carer I feel it's a privilege.
It is.
And I feel that it's felt. The family feels it,
of course,
and the carer,
yes,
and the client feels it as well. So,
oh my God, it's awesome. Yeah, it is a privilege. Yes. So the vulnerability that you know, it's something to respect. And one of the things my mother always said to me, Nance, you know, think of the person as your aunt, your grandmother, your mother, your father. And I've come to the position now. Think of the person as yourself. Put yourself in those shoes. Put yourself in those shoes. And yeah, great. Of course, you're gonna treat your mom great, your grandmother, whatever. What would you want? And I think that's really important. So we're gonna sign off. I'm so thankful that you came and graced our studios. This has been awesome. Please go to our Facebook, our YouTube channel, our TikTok, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Like and share. Definitely go to TanyaStraker.com, and she'll have that list up by tomorrow.
Yes, I will.
And some other things. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again. We're going to have some amazing guests. Stay tuned.